Welcome to the Solid Verbal. And now, Dan and Ty.
Dan Rubenstein, welcome back. How does it feel to not have to do a preview on this episode?
I'm under the impression today is our Pat League extensive 2025 and Futurecast 2026 league preview. And then you were like, I have so many very specific Colgate thoughts. And I was like, Ty, great. This is your forum. So I don't feel great. I'm still hammering.
Well, look, it's funny you mentioned the Pat League. I was putting together our Pat League lightning round for week one last night. I started putting the week one doc, not week zero, but the week one doc. And there are 7 Pat League teams that are going to be in action. Some of them playing teams like Boston College and Air Force and Bowling Green and NIU. So there's going to be some opportunity here for the Pat League to show out.
And then we have the Pat League Ivies, right? That there's like that week 2, week 3, some week 4, right? Yeah. Because they don't play huge schedules. It's a smaller conference, I believe. So they have that annual the matchup selection. That's great by me as well. I can't wait. I am so excited for Pat League football, Ty.
Who isn't? Well, welcome back in, trusty Verballer. I am Ty. He is Dan. This is the Solid Verbal. Hit follow, hit subscribe if you do nothing else. If you really like the show, leave a rating, leave a review. All that stuff goes a long way towards helping people find the show. This is like the prime time for that right now as we build to the season. People are starting to pop their heads up out of their little groundhog holes.
Who's talking Pat League to open up a show in mid-August? Okay.
Yeah, realizing that the season is on the horizon here. We are going to get you hopefully a little bit more in tune for what's ahead. We've got Brett Ciancia from Pick 6 Previews who's going to stop by. Brett is down the road from me. I had him on one of our Patreon shows a year ago. Glad we're able to make this now more of a wider thing. We're going to have everybody listening to Brett. He does, again, Pick 6 Previews, does an awesome job covering all of the Power 4 in his preview publication, which you can go out and check out at pick6previews.com. Want to talk to him about some of the second guessing maybe that has gone on since he put his previews together on our end, since we put our previews together. I've got a handful of teams. Maybe I know better, maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just a human like the rest of us and having some self-doubt creep in with some of the projections that I put out there. But I want to see if Brett's in a similar spot, maybe where he's wizened up a little bit here over the course of time.
Hey, real quick, it'd be great if you could consider subscribing to the YouTube channel down below. It really helps us out. It's a fascinating time, and people who do this preview thing for a living, guys like Brett or Bill C. or whoever's putting together all the different magazines, it's a lot of juggling, and it's a lot of not guessing, but diving into areas you didn't necessarily have to do. Looking at a running back from New Mexico, looking at a safety from UTEP, trying to gauge how to project forward what they've accomplished and what their potential may be as their sophomores and juniors into now starting for SC or Oklahoma State or something like that. And so it's fascinating, but I really do appreciate the work that these guys do. We all second guess our preview picks and lack thereof. And, I'm already having the conversations with Jody with an I, my beautiful bride, she's like, so, are you watching games that week 0? Like, how many of those games are super important? And then is there a Friday night that we could potentially go out for a date? So I'm looking through schedules to say okay, here's how I can navigate my human life with my college football.
You can't do it on Friday of week 1. Forget it.
No.
Friday of week 1 is actually pretty loaded. I was looking at this again yesterday. I was just putting this together. Auburn at Baylor, Georgia Tech at Colorado. Those are 2 biggies at 8 p.m. concurrently. And there are some other ones that I think we will be interested in, but those 2 in particular on Friday night. And the same is true on Thursday. There are games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and of course Monday, the first full week of the college football season. So get it in now. And I would say get it in week 2, is a little bit more breathing room.
You didn't mean for that to be graphic, Ty, but it could be interpreted to be.
Go on your dates
now. Get that
in
now, guys. Fellas, get it in. I did notice, by the way, flip side. Jody with an I did ask. She was like, is there a particularly great Friday to have people over to watch football? Because she signed me up to host preschool dads for a dad event, because there's these social events. to like watch football on like a fun Friday night. So I looked at the Friday night schedule. November 14th, Ty, is, I believe, Louisville, Clemson, and Oregon, Minnesota. Like, it's a high quality Friday night of football. So there is that to look forward to as well.
Well, as we get a little bit closer to this, and for those new listeners who aren't familiar with our deal, we will keep you up to date on which windows are the most important, how to build your schedules around this coming college football fall, and we'll do our part just as a public service to make sure that the Verballerhood is plugged into when the important things are happening and when you need to be in front of a TV.
When you need to get it in, as Ty Hildebrand likes to say.
I'm struggling.
I love that, Ty.
I bought
oh, my God.
Cocktober.com. Now I'm doing this.
You better not edit that out, Ty.
No, that'll stay. I'll keep that in. I'm just...
Okay. Fair enough. When to Get It In by Ty Hildebrand.
Well, on that note, awkward transition. If you'd like to consummate this podcast subscription, Pros Pro over here, and support what Dan and I do, we are an independent entity. The best way that you can support what we do is by going out to verballers.com. Sign up for a Patreon tier. You can get the episodes without the ads. You get the bonus episodes that we do. I'm about to spin up Run the Board, which is our week-to-week and season-long pick'em game, where we give out weekly prizes that's available to the folks that are on one of the certified or premium tiers. So go check that out at verballers.com. The other thing that I would add, and then I'll shut up and we'll get to our interview. If you do go to verballers.com, I've got the link out there now. I did it earlier than I expected. The preseason Verballer Top 12 poll is now open for business. You don't have to be on a paid tier for this. You just, if you sign up as a paid member or as a free member, just build an account. Go to verballers.com. You will have access to that poll. We just want to get as many people as we can to vote in the thing. Like, you see preseason polls that are dropping left and right now. We have our own. It's only a top 12, but blew it out this year. You have 136 teams to pick from. If we want to be complete, you pick your favorite 12, you rank them in order. I'll put together the results of that poll on an upcoming episode before we get to week 0. So go and check that out. Again, it's verballers.com.
Take the power back. Get your vote in. Yeah.
Joining us from the mean streets of Chester County, about an hour or so south of me, very pleased to welcome Brett Ciancia back to the Solid Verbal. Sir, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Ty and Dan, thanks for having me on. Yep, the mean streets of Chester County. I like that. Moving over to Delaware County in a week, so staying in the area, but
love it.
Now a full-blown Delco guy. Thanks for having me on. I can't wait to break down this season with you guys. Congrats on all that you've built. You know, I like to reference you guys as the godfathers of college football podcasting, because you guys were first, but you've, you're funny, you're insightful. You kept it going for over a decade. So pleasure to be back on with you guys.
Dan, we just bring them on for the Delco and the compliments.
The Delco and the compliments. Not only the first, as the world eventually crumbles with the smoldering heat of the sun, we will be the last ones still broadcasting, questioning a decision by Wazoo to go for it on 4th and 9. Like, that's, this is what we do.
Well, before we dive in, Brett, for people who maybe aren't familiar with your work, can you give us like the 30-second elevator pitch on Pick 6 and what you do, what you have been doing since 2012?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I launched Pick 6 Previews in 2012, a college football preview company. And then in 2019, I launched my first hard copy magazine. So it's like the ones you see on newsstands, but the claim to fame is that over the last 10 years and the last 5 years, I've been graded the most accurate predictor in the country. That's Stats.com. They go and grade all the publications based on conference predictions. And I've got the title. I say if they're keeping score, I want to win. So I got the 10-year and the 5-year titles. Became a Heisman voter, All-American voter, and just really excited to break it down. It's a one-man show. I do all 68 teams. My graphics, my advanced stats, but then all the writing too. So I try and strike a balance, numbers and writing, and give you really a full narrative of each program. No acronyms, no abbreviations, no jargon. It's straightforward. It's digestible, actionable advice for the season.
I was going to ask if you've considered adding more acronyms. We don't need to go there. Do they give you a belt or anything to like commemorate the championship?
I would love some hardware. Nothing yet. Just a little black and white grid that shows the standings. It's really boring. It doesn't make for good tweets, but I'd love a trophy or something to rep here, but nothing yet.
An actual crystal ball, I think, is the worthwhile gift here. Yeah. Okay.
just resurrect the old BCS trophy, the old crystal ball there. We could use that. I mean, it's the logo. It's the Pick Six logo namesake right there.
That's true. If you had the opportunity to bring back the BCS, Brett, would you?
Absolutely, I would. And I would tweak it a little bit. So here's the thing. I love the 4-team number. I love the number of 4 teams. I think that's perfect for college football. But maybe the selection process is what people are hung up about. With a committee behind closed doors, it's secretive. All these guys are connected to conferences and schools. So if you could pair maybe some kind of objective BCS formula, something like that, with a 4-team structure, that's my ideal. I've been fighting for that for years. I was in the minority crowd. Everyone wanted expansion. Now I think it's gone a bit too far with the expansion, and people are trying to go back in time. It's not going back. I mean, the TV money's out there. It's over. But I would like to keep that a smaller postseason bracket and make those Saturdays in the fall even more important, like they were when I got really into college football.
Oh, man. He's singing your language, Dan.
It's everything I think I'm a 6 guy just because I like having a little bit of inclusion in, a Mountain West champion or, the American champion. I like that element to it. And I don't know. At this point, you can argue till you're blue in the face, but hey, we've got 4 power conferences in this moment. We have 4 power conference champions, a G4-5 team, and Notre Dame or somebody else getting that at large. That's great by me. I don't know.
Yeah. I would
Seems
take that.
Worthwhile.
Yeah, I would take that in a second. And it's funny when you see these coaches at media days talking about expansion. I think Eli Drinkwitz was calling for a 30-team bracket, and they say things like, "Oh, we want to prove ourselves on the field. Give us access to a championship on the field." My thing is that's called November. You know what I'm saying? We already have that. The games are on campus, like everyone loves, and they're elimination games. So yeah, I think we already have a playoff structure built into the season. It's not as black and white, and I know pro sports fans love a very black and white structure of how to make a playoff, but we've already had that built into the regular season. So that's what drew me to college football originally, was really the chase of perfection. Maybe one loss and you still make it if you're lucky, but this 9-3 talk and 8-4, I saw a reference this year to make a playoff. I don't know. It's going away from what we love about college football.
Man, if we had a 30-team bracket, Dan, we would need the divorce lawyer on speed dial.
Absolutely, we would.
If that came to fruition. Good hell. Look, all right.
Yep.
Let me bring it back here to the reason that we brought you on, Brett. We've said this many times over on this show. This is ultimately a show about honesty. So as we've been recording our previews since the end of June, Dan, I mean, we've been doing this forever now. It feels that way. Brett, you've been doing it for the better part of the year, I'm sure. There is this very human emotion that creeps in when you spend so much time forming opinions on anything, which is you start to second guess yourself. So today is the moment for us to maybe call out some of those things now that we've perhaps put some distance between ourselves and the takes. Where has that doubt crept in? Where have we started to have some of those second thoughts? Why don't we start here, Brett, since you are the guest of honor? Where have you gotten the most pushback from readers of Pick Six previews?
Well, every year there's a couple of these teams that come up and the fan bases get really upset at me. And the team this year is Illinois. This is a team that had a special season last year, 10 wins under Brett Ciancia. I thought heck of a coaching job by him. And they grinded out a lot of close wins, 1-score wins over Nebraska, over Rutgers. Northwestern was close. Purdue, 50-49. They barely survived that one. All to say, it was a great season. But in my advanced numbers, that doesn't project forward. They were ranked 35th in my game grader formula last year. Nowhere near a top 10, not really the stat profile you look for in a top 10 team. So, I try and separate the two. Great season last year, but forward looking to 2025, I just don't see it. I know they return the bulk of their roster, but I think that roster has already hit its ceiling last year. So I came in selling Illinois hard. I've got them 9th in the Big Ten alone, 32nd nationally. And you saw the coaches poll in the AP had them 12th. So, of course, you're going to get pushback from people in Champaign. Not many friends over there this year. That's one of them.
They're not celebrating you at Papa Del's. Okay.
No, yeah. That's probably the biggest pushback this year. And other ones, smaller cases like SMU, I'm really selling. What else? Yeah, Georgia, maybe not picking them. But we'll get into Georgia for the second-guessing hunches part of this because I'm starting to worry about that one. But yeah, Illinois and South Carolina, I'm fading too this year. Again, special season last year. I love Lenora Sellers. He's absolutely electric to watch. But when you look at the recruiting profiles in this conference, they're barely keeping up with the Joneses. They're like 11th within the conference in recruiting. So everyone else gets stronger. They're kind of staying the same. I think they take a step back in the win column. So those are two that are in the AP that I'm selling.
What is Game Grader? You don't need to tell me the exact formula, but like, what does it look at when you are evaluating a team's performances from last year? And where can Game Grader say, you know what, the record wasn't there, but the way they performed was actually interesting projecting forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do all 68 teams, and that's across 4 conferences. So I needed a way to numerically be able to grade these teams against each other. A middle tier ACC versus a Big 12 that never play each other, no common opponents. So I designed this formula, and basically what it is, it takes all the key stats of a game, the yardage margins, the per play, explosive plays, a bunch of other proprietary stuff. Gets it down to one number, and then I adjust it for the opponent's strength too, because blowing out Rice is not the same as blowing out Alabama. So all the key stats of a game, and then opponent adjusted to get to a number, basically a game grade. And then over the course of 12 games, 15 games, 5 seasons, I can start to see a trend using the game grader formula. So it's become really effective at predicting games and also upcoming seasons. So that's really the key number. I have a couple other advanced stats in the book that you can see, and it's all visually appealing. It's not like calculus. You can see it. It's color coded and make it very accessible. But that's the gist of Game Grader.
Got it.
So one of my big second guessing / I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm doubting myself on Miami. Okay, so we did our ACC preview, I guess, back at the early part of July, and at the time that I went through the Canes, I came away feeling very pessimistic. And then I looked around to see what everybody else was saying, because at the point that Dan and I were recording, nobody else had really put out preview content. I had them down as an 8-4 team. The comments that I have gotten have made me feel pretty crazy about that. My reasoning for it is that I look at the offense and I say it has to look different because there's no Cam Ward. Carson Beck versus Cam Ward, those are two very, very different players. They have a good line, which we know that Cristobal prefers. They're going to want to run it. I just think the pace is going to be slower. I see situations up and down this schedule where maybe the offense gets stuck in the mud against a better defensive front. They can't be as effective on the ground. They are less proven out wide this season. And I could see there being a little bit more resistance perhaps than meets the eye. Now, you can imagine what the comments have been in response to that, right? There is I think, decent enough backfield. Granted, maybe not as proven, but certainly there are guys back there that I think you can trust, especially behind a line like this. The guys that they do have out wide, it's not like these are no-name caliber receivers. And obviously, Carson Beck has played at a very high level. You complement that with a defense that I do believe will be improved. I'm basically making a case against myself here. Okay. So Miami is one of those teams, and especially as a Notre Dame fan, Miami is one of those teams that I have really grappled with since doing that preview. And if anything, I think I am more inclined to give them more benefit of the doubt than I did, a month ago, Dan, when we did these shows.
Well, with Miami, I'm coming at it from the other angle, actually. I might have sold them too much at the beginning. I had them really in a dead heat with Clemson. I really consider Miami to win the whole conference outright. That's how high I was on them. I scaled it back before I published. So we're kind of meeting in the middle here. I was really high on Miami, and I'm kind of selling them a little bit more. Here's some questions that Miami has is, last year we talked about how close they were to the playoff, and they blew that big lead against Syracuse. They were up 21-0. They blew the game against Georgia Tech. But a lot of people stop the discussion there. You got to take it further. They should have lost to Virginia Tech. There was that questionable 15-minute long review and that walk-off Hail Mary pass. That could have flipped. Cal was up 35-10 on them on a late Friday night, and a lot of people went to bed thinking that was a blowout loss, and Miami rallied miraculously to come back. So while we can say that they should have been in the playoff, you could also say they could have or should have been 8-4 on the other side of the coin. So with that starting point, yeah, Carson Beck's a big question for me. I was down in Tuscaloosa to see Georgia versus Alabama last year, and it was night and day. First half, Carson Beck, he threw 3 picks. He was seeing ghosts. They fell behind big time. Second half, it was like a Heisman candidate. So he's hot and cold. And then the defense. Yeah, you're right that if they slow the pace down on offense, that puts more of a burden on the defense. They have to be sharper than last year. And you're going with a coordinator change with Corey Heatherman coming in from Minnesota. They hit the portal really hard. You wonder about those two variables, if that clicks or not. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, from the other direction, I started really high on Miami, and I'm fading it back to kind of meet you in the middle here.
Okay. All right. So I don't feel as bad. Dan, do you have a team or a couple teams that you have looked at as, you're second guessing yourself now in hindsight?
It's not that I'm second guessing per se. It's like I planted a flag about Mizzou on our SEC preview, in large part because of the schedule, in large part because they've been quietly and consistently at least pretty good these past few years, it seems. They've lost some dumb games. There's so many transfers on this defense, even transfers who came in last year and this year and are going to be rotating in. Couple that with Bo Pribula, couple that with an offense that took a step back in terms of explosion last season. I understand. I can visualize why Mizzou would be very good this year, regardless of schedule. But SEC is just tough, man. The SEC is just like an average SEC team is still any given week going to be very tough. And so Mizzou has the capability to win a bunch of games, but they still have the capability of, looking like what they did against Texas A&M last year. And I know obviously Brady Cook had injury issues last year, but that's the big one. They feel like they could swing anywhere between, 7-5, 10-2, 6-6, 9. Like there's a lot of varied outcomes to me on this Mizzou schedule. Does that make any sense, Brett?
Yeah, and talking about Illinois fans, Missouri fans are all up in my comments too, because I did not have them in the preseason top 25 and caught a lot of flack for that as well. I agree with you with some of those concerns. I mean, the quarterback transition, Brady Cook, I mean, he was a warrior last year. There was the game, I think it was Auburn, one of those games, he was injured, went to the hospital in the middle of the game, had whatever procedure done, came back in the fourth quarter and led the game-winning drive. I mean, absolute warrior. So yeah, you switch over to Bo Pribula. He got a little bit of play at Penn State, but a 3-star recruit. It's unproven. And really what made Missouri special the last couple of years was their receiver core. Luther Burden being the headliner. I mean, it was 5 stars at a program that never really had 5 stars. So you take away your quarterback and the best position room, the receiver room, and it's a lot of questions for me. So I ended up fading Missouri too. I had them 12th in the SEC. Wow. You're right. It's just such a competitive league. I mean, who are you going to put them above? In South Carolina, they're a legit top 25 team, and Florida and Oklahoma are veteran. And so it's just such a deep league. I had to put somebody 12th, and I put Missouri down there.
Go Ty.
My theory on Mizzou this year, Brett, is because of, as you alluded, the receiver room and some of the changes there, because of Pribula's skill set, which, I feel like I saw enough of to understand what he's all about in his limited action at Penn State. It feels like they need to bring this offense more into balance. If nothing more, run the ball a lot more than we saw last season. Does that seem like it tracks with what you've been previewing for Mizzou this year?
Yeah. Well, think back 2 years ago, they had Cody Schrader. This was a guy, like a walk-on Division II type guy, a grinder, and he went for a ton of yards. I think he got off first team All SEC. Last year, they didn't have that. So they were really the pass heavy. The receiver room was the key feature. They might go back to that. Like you said, the run game, they brought in a guy, Ahmad Hardy from, I think, Louisiana Monroe, had a ton of yards, a lot after contact. He was getting some Ashton Genty comparisons. So you got to love to hear that if you're a Missouri fan. So maybe get behind a big offensive line and run the ball a bit more. So yeah, that was one of the all transfer. It's funny. I have an All-American team, an All-SEC team, now an all transfer team because there's so much player movement.
You have no choice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He got the all transfer spot in the SEC running back. So they got a good one there.
I'm curious because, and this isn't really a gambling angle, but it just in terms of like who you should invest interest in early on in the season. And I asked this because one of my pet, I guess it's an acronym, right? Like my QFB, my quest for boring. A lot of teams could simply be so much better if they took care of boring things more often, right? That like stay ahead of the sticks a little bit more often. Tackle a guy to make it 4th and 2 instead of, 4th and inches. Like there's just little things. Who are your beneficiaries when you look at the teams that you've looked at this year across these conferences that like, man, if they took care of such boring things just a little bit more often, it seems like it would make a world of difference.
Yeah, I've got two for you. One from the SEC would be Auburn. And this is a team that, in my advanced stats, which look at, the offense, the defense, their performances, top 20 both sides of the ball last year on offense and defense. Okay. How'd they go 5-7? You look at it, it was the worst field goal kicking in the country, dead last. I think it was like under 50% make. It was unbelievable, leaving all those points on the field. And then 5 turnovers in a couple games, 5 turnovers against Cal. 5 turnovers, another loss they had. So when you look back at it, 5-7, but probably 4 of those could have flipped to wins conservatively. 4 of them flipped to wins if they would have taken care of the ball a bit and then made some chip shot field goals. That's it. That's all that had to change. So on top of that, they had a great recruiting class, another round of transfers. The receiver room is absolutely loaded. I think that my number 2 receiver group outside of Columbus.
Nice.
And then they bring in a 5-star Jackson Arnold, who I know he struggled at Oklahoma. I think there were other problems there last year on offense. So a second-year SEC starter there with Arnold. So, yeah, Auburn, I think, is going to take a lot of steps forward if they could just kick some field goals and not turn the ball over 5 times. Similar, Nebraska from the Big Ten. This is a team, if you watch them, they're shooting themselves in the foot every game, every year for like a decade. I mean, I put a stat out there in the book a couple years ago, the turnover margin, the last 5 years, the last 10 years, even going back to like the Frank Solich era, they're dead last in America. I don't know what the curse is out there. Maybe by winning that 97 national title, they sold their soul to the devil or something crazy, because the turnover luck is unbelievable. So you wonder, is this the year that they finally get it back on their side? I don't know, but they've gone under their win total for 10 straight years from Vegas. Something's got to click there. So if they can just take care of the football and get some better special teams play, they had a negative yardage punt a couple years ago. It's just stuff that doesn't happen to other programs.
Right.
It's all Nebraska special teams. If they clean that up, they should be 8-4 in that area.
I'm curious, as for your game grader, who from last season had a record that wasn't necessarily indicative of quality, and that you are using that to sort of, extrapolate and push forward, like, guys, this team was actually pretty good last year. They couldn't get it done. Maybe they weren't boring enough. I guess that's the Auburn case, but like this team, yeah, they went 4-8, but like they could go 9-3, no problem this year. Do you have any candidates for that?
Yeah. Well, on the negative side, I already hit on it with Illinois. I think that was, 10-3. That was not your typical 10-win team if you look at it statistically. The optimist angle, I would go with USC, and I'm scared to do this. I mean, talking about second guessing and hunches, I'm a little worried about doing this, but USC, they were 7-5 last year. I think all 5 are 1-score losses. They were really close in a lot of games, a lot of late leads in the fourth quarter that were blown. And you wonder, I mean, that projects forward better. So in terms of game grader, they were 15th in the country last year in game grader, but 7-5 overall. So something doesn't match up there. I think they were better than the record showed. And then when you project forward to 2025, again, one of the biggest spenders in this NIL market, you know how expensive it is to go get these top transfers. And I think they were number 1 or number 2 in the Big Ten in spending for that. So they're pumping the roster. Second-year quarterback with Jaden Maiava, second-year coordinator on defense with Danton Lynn. So I think they were better than the record showed. I don't know who's going to claim 4th place in this Big Ten. It's wide open. Yep. I see a distinct 3, but then I don't know who to put at 4th. I mean, I actually ended up tying USC and Michigan. Both kind of have one side of the ball figured out, and they're working on the other half. But I think USC is a candidate for better than the record showed last year, should improve.
So I've got USC on my list with respect to
second guessing.
The
YouTube commenters got after you, Ty.
Well, they did. They did. Listen, yeah. I'm a human too. I have to be real with the verballerhood. I made a comment that I think this team is worse this year, and I caught a lot of flack for that. I think the defense will be better because I believe in Danton Lynn. I think he's the real deal. I believe in the receivers. I think they've got an incredible tandem of 2 wide receivers. I'm really not sure about the rest of it, Brett. And I take your point, and you probably know better than I with respect to, who they're bringing in and how that fits in from a personnel standpoint, given the packages they want to run and the schemes that are at play and all of that. But I guess maybe what I am speaking more to is some uncertainty around Maiava, who I think is a great athlete and a lot of fun to watch, but has to definitely sand over some of those rougher edges in his game if they want to take that next step. I am a little bit spooked by the fact that they are reaching out to smaller schools to plug holes. maybe along the line, maybe in the backfield. That might not be fair because, as we talked about with Oregon, their all-world left tackle, literally a world, is from Nevada, right? So it's not fair maybe to look down on smaller schools the way that I think I did when I talked about USC, but that creeps me out a little bit. Shouldn't USC be better than that, not having to go down a level to bring guys up to plug those holes?
Yeah, there's some valid critiques here. That's why, again, I was torn about who to even put fourth place. With Maava, I don't know. Is he really a Lincoln Riley quarterback? Is he a five-star blue chipper who's going to go in the first round and push for a Heisman? I don't know. I think that's still an uncertainty.
But do they need that? I guess the counterpoint would be, we've seen that from Lincoln Riley teams before, and that's sort of his calling card. But if there is enough talent out there, and if the defense does take a step forward, do they need Maava to be a Heisman candidate?
Well, okay. I think at receiver, I agree that they're stacked. I mean, they have a couple blue chippers in there. Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane. They actually stole Utah's #1 receiver after spring ball. Whittingham goes out. He calls Zacharias Williams. He's our #1. We're going to build the offense around him. Then he leaves the next day for USC. So I think they're set at receiver. But I'll agree with you there at running back and offensive line. Running back, they had to go to the JUCO level. And then at the offensive line, they got Syracuse's center, Reed. And then a couple other transfers that were not former blue chippers. They were like 2-star, 3-star guys from high school. So you wouldn't really expect that from USC, And I just want Lincoln Riley to win enough this year to survive, to be able to then coach the 2026 recruiting class. Because I don't know if you saw, I know we're really early in that cycle, but #1 in the country recruiting ranking next year. Hopefully they hold on to that and finish in the top 5. And maybe that could be a turning point for the whole program. But they got to do enough to get to that point. I don't think any USC fan would have signed up for 7-5 and losing in the Las Vegas Bowl by year 3. So they got to get it turned around. And there's definitely some valid critiques there on the offensive line and running back.
They did win the Vegas Bowl. To be clear, they did come back and win that Vegas Bowl.
Got the W.
Yeah, they came back and beat A&M, but yeah, point taken. For your consideration on any podcast player, search Solid Verbal, find us, and hit follow or subscribe. It's just that easy.
The other team that I feel I might have been too harsh on was Arizona. And this is not to say that Arizona is going to make some dark horse run at the Big 12. I'm not saying that, but I do think that there is at least a little bit more structure now with how Brent Brennan is running the system. Like, one thing that became apparent to me after doing our preview was that Noah Fifita was kind of on his own last year. They didn't have a dedicated quarterback coach. This year, regardless of how we feel about Seth Deggy, there is definitely a little bit more attention on Noah Fifita on trying to give him structure and trying to move things forward. It sounds more broadly like Brent Brennan tried to run Arizona the way he ran San Jose State, and they're very different programs. So I think I discounted maybe the structure that he's put in place now, and I discounted the fact that there could be some sort of second-year coach boost that, maybe in the haze of the middle of the night when I'm putting all this stuff together, I didn't quite see for the Cats. Again, they're not going 10-2. But I think I might have been a little too low on them, given the fact that perhaps there has been some change going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. With Arizona, I've got them projected towards the bottom of the conference. But to your point, all throughout my magazine, my book, on the radio, I'm always talking about that second-year bonus. I mean, I brought it up with USC, coordinator bonus, quarterback bonus, head coach. So I did also overlook that with Arizona. I really gave them no benefit of the doubt there, having a second-year bonus with Brent Brennan. Who knows? Maybe they do get some, catch some fire. The pessimist angle would be they keep losing their best players to the portal. A lot of them going north to Seattle to follow their old coach, Jed Fish. He took a good round of them the first time in 2024 and then another round this year. I mean, Jonah Coleman, their running back, Jacob Manu, their all-conference linebacker, both their all-conference corners with Prysock and Takario Davis. It just seems like a one-way portal from Tucson up to Seattle. So that worries me. And I don't think they backfilled enough. All right, so you lose your starters and your stars to Seattle and Washington. Did they bring anybody in? And that's where I'm starting to worry with Arizona. So, yeah, I don't see them competing for a bowl or anything, but maybe they do get a bonus their second year.
Do you have any teams that you're second guessing now that you've put the publication out?
Well, at the top of the SEC, I know that, I like to dig into the random teams too, but I mean, sometimes the teams at the top you got to cover. And with Texas, Bama, Georgia, this trio, I really like Alabama. I have them playing in Atlanta in the SEC title game. I like what they brought back. I like their coordinator change, everything. So Bama, I'm set on. It's this Texas-Georgia debate that I'm kind of flipping on all of a sudden. I put Texas to win the conference. I had them above Georgia, and I penciled them in up there. And now I'm starting to wonder, did we oversell Georgia? I mean, this is a team that's been kind of a mini dynasty recently. But what caught my eye was I was building out what I call my advanced rosters. Basically, it's a 2-deep where I color-coded all. Were they a 4-star, a 5-star? If they were a transfer, where'd they come from? Were they all conference? Anyway, like a visual 2-deep. And I'm going through Georgia, and there's 11 5-stars on the defense alone. I mean, that's unbelievable. Yep. I don't even think there's 11 5-stars in the whole ACC or the Big 12 combined. It's like the talent that is stockpiled at Georgia, especially on their defense, I think I might have overlooked right in the preview magazine. So I do have them 5th nationally, but maybe they should be one of those teams playing in Atlanta because Texas has their concerns too. You know, I penciled in Texas to win it. A lot of people did, and maybe without really thinking too deeply on it. They lose 4 offensive line starters. They lose 5 NFL draft picks off the defense. They lose the Thorpe winner with Jadid Barron. They're resetting in a lot of spots. So maybe we were too quick to just put Texas there at the top. Team that lost to Georgia twice last year, by the way. Yeah. So that's one I'm starting to regret. And after seeing all those blue chips on paper, starting to worry about Georgia.
Fair enough. When you look around the sport right now, who are actually I want to drill down to the Big 12. The Big 12 had a champion who was picked to finish in last place last season. You mentioned the rosters that have 4 stars and 5 stars are all conference transfers. The Big 12 doesn't recruit in the way that the SEC and Big 10 do. It's incredibly entertaining. It's high quality football. How do you sort out a conference that each team has very specific flaws? Nobody truly separates themselves, or no 3 teams truly separate themselves from a recruiting standpoint. How do you evaluate a conference like that and sort out teams at or near the top?
Yeah, well, it's my 14th year doing Pick 6 previews. I think this is the most wide open conference of them all over 14 years. And it's crazy. So the coaches did a poll at Media Days, and they picked Kansas State versus Iowa State as their championship game. And I looked, and I have them 6th and 7th in the Big 12. So both of them outside my top 5. That's how wide open it is. You could argue 7 or 8 teams to win this thing, and they each have their little 30-second elevator pitch. Like you said, pros and cons for both. With Arizona State, that's where I ultimately went with. And, you know, might be some chalk, but you look back at last year, advanced stats-wise, they were legit. They were a real conference champion. They bring back 20 starters. I know they lose Cam Scatterbo, the do-it-all running back. But really, everybody's back. You got a first-round draft grade at quarterback. A lot to like from Arizona State. So that was my pick. But then from there, I mean, Texas Tech is a mystery. They bring in all this oil money funding, and they sign the top transfer class in the country. 12 blue chippers at Texas Tech they signed. That's more than the rest of the conference combined. So that's your talent play. Can it gel? Can it gel quick enough? That's the deal. But I have them strong enough to play Arizona State in the conference title game. And then real quickly, I mean, Baylor, you could argue them. They caught fire over the second half of the year, won 7 straight. They bring back pretty much the whole roster. Dave Aranda works some magic on defense. He has in the past. That's his forte. Utah, they're reloading on offense, bringing in a whole new scheme. Devin Dampier, electric to watch. He's very elusive in the pocket. Should get some stable quarterback play that's been missing due to injury at Utah for so long. So those are my top 4. TCU is a wild card. I like Kansas State and Iowa State as well. But again, you could pick 1 out of 8 teams to win this thing, and it's fascinating. So you don't have a top 10 team, a lot of top 40, a lot of top 25 caliber. So it makes for great football. I love watching this conference.
To what end do you take talent into account when you're putting together projections, putting together previews? Because, you know, it certainly has a place. Not everybody hits. I know Bud Elliott, our friend Bud, has the blue chip ratio, which has been sort of like a staple metric in college football circles for a good while now. But like, how do you incorporate that into whatever calculations you are running on your end?
Yeah, well, it's important. It's very important. I would say recruiting and talent acquisition, that's really the backbone of a program. You know, if you want to win national titles or win conferences, you have to have great recruiting. That's the starting point. Or nowadays, great transfer activity. Look at Ole Miss, look at Texas Tech, that kind of thing. So it's definitely the starting point, but I don't end there. I think a lot of people like to put way too much emphasis on just the recruiting. I think you need to have schemes that work. You need to have stability with the coaching staff. Nowadays, it's roster retention, not just recruiting, but can you keep the recruits on campus? I talked to head coaches, talked to coordinators about recruiting and transfers, and they start out with the day after the season, they're recruiting their own players. They're recruiting their own starters, re-recruiting them to stay on campus. So the retention game has become a new facet of college football. So I think recruiting is important. It's the starting point, but then schemes that work, retention, and then you got to go player develop and all that. So I'd say it's crucial, but not the only piece. And it definitely factors in, but there's a lot more to it.
Do you have to redo your preview 8 times? Like, when do you start this? And I mean, seriously, because we have so much activity that goes on, even in the spring window. I mean, I don't need to know the whole process, but how often are you redoing some of these team previews because of late action in the portal or just otherwise college football is so fluid?
I'm calling it the Retzlaff test, and it was whether your magazine and preview was able to get that in there, and mine, I think, was the only one to have it in. Of course, with the BYU starting quarterback, Jake Retzlaff, leaving campus mid-July, all the magazines had already been printed, and they got him, on the All Big 12 team and got BYU in the top 10, and I ended up catching that the day before I published the 2025 edition. So I have him out of there. I have Bear Bachmeier, the new 4-star, as their starting quarterback, and so that was I'm later in the game than others, but it's a pro and a con. I mean, I use it to my advantage to try and be up to date, but it's such a long process. I think back to when I launched this in 2012. It was very simple. In 2012, think back, you had a BCS, you had something called the Big East. Yep. It was a simpler time. And what you would do, you would just have your recruiting rankings, your returning starters, and that's it. Maybe a couple guys that went pro early, but that was pretty much the formula. Nowadays, to answer your question, I mean, it's kind of a writing in March, a rewriting in April, and then a final writing in July. There are the transfer portal windows in December and April, the post-spring window. But there are times where I have to throw out the entire draft. I mean, I think about Colorado a couple years back.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote their team preview up. I thought it was great in April. And then again, I had to just throw the whole thing in the trash and just start over because like 70 players transferred out. So it's way more edits. It's complicated it by, tenfold. But I do think, to spin, I think it makes for a better product. I think it makes for a more valuable resource to the reader because it's hard to follow not only your own team, but your opponent's teams, your teams in your conference. So once August hits, people are like, who's even on my roster? Who are these players? So with the preview magazine here, you can go through it. It's very readable. You can see who left, who's coming in, which ones matter. You can just say that they have 10 transfers. Are they good players? How'd they do at their last school?
Right.
How were they graded as transfers? So it's complicated things a lot, but I think that makes for a more valuable product here.
So with respect to the game grader that I know Dan asked about, and you've mentioned a couple times over here, you said that it has predictive qualities. What are those qualities with respect to week 1 in 2025? Because it's a loaded slate. There are a bunch of ranked matchups. I think the headliners, the obvious headliner, at least on the first Saturday, is Texas at Ohio State. But we got a bunch of these games now. So as you are looking forward, because I know you do work in season as well, what are your numbers saying about what this slate looks like in week 1? Where is your eye drawn?
Yeah, well, even with week 0, I like that Farmageddon game, that Kansas State, Iowa State. I like Kansas State -2.5 there, or -3, wherever you get it, a field goal spread. Neutral site, so you can throw the home field advantage out. But I think Kansas State's a more proven product this year. I know Iowa State was picked by many, picked by the coaches in the conference to win it. I just don't see it from Iowa State. They lose a lot from that defense. They're a team that when they're veteran, they're very strong. But I think they're kind of going through a little bit of a transition. The receivers are gone, a couple pieces from the offensive line, a lot of the defense gone. So I like Kansas State there in the week 0 kickoff game. Some other ones from week 1, Nebraska -6.5 against Cincinnati. I think Nebraska took a lot of steps forward here on their offensive line and their receivers from the transfer portal, trying to give their 5-star Dylan Raiola more people around him. I think last year it was a pretty broken offense. I know he flashed at times, but again, an 18-year-old true freshman. I think in his second season with proven offensive line starters, with proven number 1 receivers, I think you're going to see a better Nebraska here in Rule's 3rd year. So I like Nebraska to cover that touchdown. One more I'll give you here, Utah, UCLA. I saw that spread came in at a touchdown. I think Utah is going to destroy UCLA. I mean, they're the more physical team. UCLA is a team that we talked about with Arizona, how their starters are getting poached by other programs. Same with UCLA. And I know they have the headliner with Nico, that kind of is the exception to the rule. But otherwise, this roster was carved up. So I see Utah going in there and smacking them. So I'll go with Utah minus a touchdown there in the opener.
What is?
Yeah, plenty of angles, and that's the beauty of I'm starting Pick Six Plus this year.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
In-season feature, yeah. So all the information from the magazine, but updated weekly. All my game grader, all my advanced stats, even a little bit more of that against the spread trend, a little leaning into that angle a little bit more for those kind of listeners and readers. So all that situational splits you look for is in there. Pick Six Plus.
Cool. I wanted to ask you real quick about Texas, Ohio State, because I know Dan and I have had a little bit of back and forth over this one. I made a comment somewhere along the way, and I forget where exactly, that I think Texas is the team. I think Texas is definitely beating Ohio State. Of course, you talk indefinitely's when you're speaking in July, and a lot is subject to change, including some of this self-doubt that inevitably is going to creep in. But I still believe that. I still think because Ohio State has so much new, they're obviously still going to be loaded. Look at the roster. But I think given enough back on the Texas side and some of the momentum that I feel they had down the stretch last season, like they are probably eager to get this rematch with Ohio State, maybe get a little bit better in some of those short yardage situations that I know you alluded to, Brett, in your preview magazine with Arch Manning and some of his mobility. Do you have a lean in that game?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have Texas number 2 in the country. I have Ohio State number 3, and they're pretty much even. With the game being in Columbus, I'm going to go with Ohio State here. Tight game. Okay. Really tough to forecast, too, because, like you said, so much turnover on both rosters. I put Texas early in our show on my category of second guessing and worrying about, just because all the roster transition they had. I know we talk about that with Ohio State. They sent a record number of NFL draft picks away from Columbus, I think 14 of them. But so they have questions, too. But then, yeah, Texas, same deal. So I'm going to lean with Ohio State, and here's why. I like their offensive line. Against Texas's D-line. And the deal with Ohio State, it was such a long season, a long playoff run. They had a lot of injuries on their offensive line, which, hurt at the moment. But now you got a lot of younger guys ahead of schedule with reps and starts and experience. So actually their offensive line is pretty proven. I like what they have there. They're going up against a Texas front that loses several starters and had to backfill from the portal a lot. I think 3 out of 4 starters are portal guys. A lot of the 2-deep is now from the portal. And that can hit. That could be great. But in week 1, I think you're going to catch them. So Arch Manning's first big start on the road, a hostile, it's going to be at noon. I was going to say prime time. It should be prime time.
It should be prime
unbelievable.
time. Yeah.
Number 1 versus number 3 is going to be at noon. But that's our era now with big TV money. But no, I like Ohio State here. I think they're, if it's possible to say, the more proven product still, despite losing 14 draft picks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. We got another one, Dan.
Okay. So you talk about Texas and Ohio State both, filling holes with transfers and it working out for both of these teams, obviously swimmingly for Ohio State last year. You have new coaches. You have recent new coaches, not plugging holes, but building entire rosters, bringing in 15 basketball teams worth of guys, right? That there's 47 new guys, 53 new guys, 61 new guys. On one level, how do you evaluate how that team is going to be? Are you putting just everything on coaching history and schedule, not knowing how anybody's going to gel and how anybody fits into whatever system? Or do you just throw your hands up and say, like, we'll talk about it October 11th?
A little bit of both, I'd say. I mean, 2 examples that come to mind. You got Purdue going through a massive roster turnover, coaching change after their terrible season last year. The worst team in the country per my numbers last year. I mean, you look at it, the transfer portal was, 20 Purdue starters out of there going to different schools. So total rebuild. I think in these situations, what you try and do is you got to go position by position. You got to dig in. There's no easy way out of this discussion. So I looked at every transfer coming in, where'd they come from? Were they all conference guys at the lower tier? Were they former blue chip recruits? Just go room by room, and then also look at the coaching and their history. So with Purdue, with Barry Odom, he's actually gone through a similar scenario at UNLV 2 years ago. He took over UNLV. They were terrible. He went through a massive roster overhaul and got them to the Mountain West title game twice in a row. So a guy that's done it before, albeit at the Mountain West and not the Big Ten, but you want somebody that's gone through such a transition. So maybe tough in 2025, but could be the right guy going forward, intermediate, long term. The other one, and I'm actually proud of us that we went 40 minutes without talking about it, the UNC hire of Bill Belichick. coming in.
Sure.
One of the storylines of 2025. I heard they're going to be bringing the entire ESPN campus down to Chapel Hill. They're going to just set up shop there for the next 3 months. But no, I think a similar deal. They're bringing in like 65 new players. And again, I had to just dig in position by position. And I think they're proven at some spots. You know, in their secondary, they have several guys that were former starters at, you know, the Power 4 or the Group of 5 level. At quarterback, they're trying to get their quarterback back from injury with Johnson, but they signed Gio Lopez, an all Sun Belt guy, a true freshman player from South Alabama, dual threat kid. So long story short, I mean, it's a little bit uncertain with UNC. You got to trust their coaching. And in the ACC, you're going to have a lot of one-score games. And who better to trust than a Belichick team? You feel like the keys to the game they're going to be good at. You know, the situational stuff, procedure penalties, like they're going to be clean, I think. So that might flip a couple one-score games their way. But it's a total crapshoot with some of these rosters.
Fair enough. One of the more fascinating teams, and I am a biased Oregon human here, but the Oregon Ducks win the Big Ten. They go 13-0 last season during the regular season. We've talked about the SEC champ in Georgia. We've talked about the Big 12 champ in Arizona State. Oregon seems to be on like 3 clear paths, and we kind of have to decide how we feel about each one. One is that we're maybe underselling how good they were last year and how many quality pieces are back, and they're perhaps not getting the attention that Ohio State and Penn State are, having beaten both of those teams during the regular season last year. We don't need to talk about the Rose Bowl. That's a conversation that nobody wants to have. Nobody needs to reflect on. 2 is that they're properly seen as a competitive team near the top, but had to replace an offensive line, a quarterback, key pieces in the secondary, and defensive line, and that's a lot. Or 3, that they're due for a down year and there's a reckoning coming because there are too many questions. And so you obviously have them pretty high in your Big Ten tier. Where do you think, with the benefit of now a little bit more time and, you know, hearing stories about camp, like where do you stand? Same place? How do you feel about those 3 paths?
Well, I might have to give you a 4th. I was on the radio up in Portland and they were asking me about Oregon. And
sure.
I told him, hey, Oregon's my pick to win the national championship. And I paused way too long. And I go, in 2026. Yeah. I think that, and I put that in the book too as my preview for next year. But I think they're building an absolute machine in Eugene. I mean, it's unbelievable, undeniable the amount of talent that they're stockpiling. Dan Lanning has really elevated this recruiting thing to a new level. I look at it this way, 24/7 Sports and On3, it's a lot of quantity for their recruiting rankings. But if you look at it at per player, if you just do the sheer average, Oregon was number 1 in the country from the high school ranks last year and number 1 in the country from the transfer portal last year per player. So it's undeniable what's going on up there. But here's the thing, they're very young. So it's all about what playoff structure we're in. I think last year leaves a confusing legacy. 13-0, number 1, the clear only undefeated team. In 130 years of college football, that team's either playing in a Rose Bowl for a national title or they're in the BCS title game. And that could have been their first title in school history. Instead, they're thrown back into this big bracket and they run into a rematch Ohio State spot. So I say that not to bring up bad memories for you, but I say that because now it flips to an advantage for Oregon, because in the old structure, I don't see this team going undefeated. I don't see 2025 Oregon going 12-0 and making a 1-2 BCS title game. I do see maybe a 10-2, a very younger team that is growing up. They probably lose that whiteout spot, maybe drop another one as a young team. But by the time December rolls around and January rolls around, now they're not a young team anymore. They're now a veteran team stockpiled with 5-star recruits that could be rounding into form in a big bracket. So it's a confusing legacy they leave behind and enter 2025 with, but I think they're one of the most talented in the country. It's one of the youngest. So I think come late 2025, but definitely 26, they're a national title contender.
Fair.
There you go, Dan. Got to wait a year. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Well, you thought you were going to have to wait a year for Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame everything was pointing to 2025, and they do it a year early. They get to that game.
Okay, so let me ask about that before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
Clearly, I have a rooting interest in Notre Dame. By all accounts, the quarterback battle is neck and neck. Much to my surprise, much to the surprise of many, it seems like this is a legitimate neck and neck race here. Does that alter your thinking at all, Brett, depending on who gets the job? Different skill sets. CJ Carr, much more of, the drop back passer, good mobility, but he's not necessarily going to be a runner. Kenny Minchie, I think they basically call the same offense regardless of who's the quarterback, but Kenny Minchey is definitely more mobile. You can put him on the run. You can do a little bit more with him. Does that alter your thinking, maybe just with respect to week one, how you view Notre Dame, depending on who they end up picking at quarterback?
No, in fact, I could even spin it as a positive. It all depends on who we're talking about, because you have a 5-star with CJ Carr and another top 100 recruit in Kenny Minchey. These are blue chippers. They were, heavily recruited by everybody. So if they're competing neck and neck, I think you have two really good quarterbacks. If one of the people in the situation was a walk-on or a 2-star or like a former MAC player or something, and they're neck and neck with CJ Carr, then it might be cause for concern. But I think you have two legit quarterbacks. Like you said, maybe different styles. Maybe you can use Minchey's legs in certain situations. If anything, you can confuse your week one opponent with who you're going to play. They're going to have to prep for both guys. So I'm viewing that as a positive. And speaking of your two teams, I wonder if we're going to see I call it the Solid Verb Bowl. Oregon versus Notre Dame. That'd be a heck of a game there in the bracket.
We're ready.
We've been waiting for it. Yeah, it hasn't happened yet.
I know, Ty, you had to deal with an awkward one with Notre Dame, Penn State being a Pennsylvanian, probably surrounded by staters. That had to be tough last year.
And as an alum, it was
an alumni too. Yeah,
I mean, we did a stream for it, and in hindsight, I said to Dan, I'm like, we shouldn't have done that stream. It really left me in a very conflicted state because these are the two teams that I root for, and one I've cheered for a little bit longer. The other I graduated from the school. I'm hoping.
Let's be clear. As soon as that game kicked off, he was like, Notre Dame, baby, let's do this. He was not conflicted. Between the sidelines, he was all Irish all the time. So it wasn't like, oh, that was a good play, but now I feel... No. Immediately.
It took like 3 minutes. It took 3 minutes for like the primal instincts to kick in. And then, it was a lot of rooting for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I feel like on that opening kickoff, it was a good tackle from Notre Dame or something. Maybe I'm making that up. And he was like, yeah, baby. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, hey, the college football fandom runs deep. You can't turn that off.
You can't. You can't, man. All right, look, his name's Brett Ciancia. You can find him out at Pick Six Previews. Tell the fine people where to go, what they can find when they get there, and what you've got going on this season.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Second annual preview show. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see what you guys do this fall. And it's pick6previews.com, Pick Six Previews on Twitter. The annual season preview magazine. We have the digital version and the hard copy magazine. It's spiral bound. People are loving the spiral binding. I mean, it's such a simple,
I got it right here. Look,
feature.
Brett sent it to me. I forgot to thank you via text message, so thank you for sending this up to me. But of course. It's a nice little quick reference guide. You do a great job with it.
It's great.
Well, thank you so much. It's on there. We got sample teams. You can take Ty's testimonial right there. That's all I need. And then on there, you'll see samples. If you buy the hard copy, you get the digital as well. Just for those 3 days that it's in USPS shipping, you have access right away. And then also take a look at Pick Six Plus. It's our in-season feature. All the advanced stats you like, all the against the spread, the situational splits. How's a team as a favorite? How are they off a bye? All that kind of stuff. Updated every Tuesday in your email inbox, Pick Six Plus. Go check that out. So thanks so much for having me, guys. I mean, always a great convo. My favorite spot of the year for preseason talks.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate it. We will do it again sometime very soon. Again, check out Brett's work at pick6previews.com. All right, again, check him out. Brett Ciancia, Pick Six Previews. I got it here in front of me, right? Where am I doing? Here we go.
Oh,
got it right in front of me.
Beautiful.
I showed it when Brett was on the screen. I'll show it again now. I've been using this as my quick reference guide as I go through these teams. It's a perfect complement to much of the other work that has gone in on this end to try and figure out who is who in this coming year of college football. So we appreciate Brett's time.
He says no acronyms, but it's BFT, Ty. It's built for toilets. It's so great.
And we mean that not as a pejorative, by the way.
100% compliment. That you can sit down with it when you're already sitting doing something else, taking care of your business, and just bang out the Houston preview, right? Just like figure out how you feel about West Virginia or Ohio State or Washington. Like, it's great. Great toilet fodder. Perfect compliment from me.
Love it. All right. Well, a big thanks again to Brett.
Yes.
Please go and check out his work. He does an awesome job. On our next episode, we're going to be doing our official predictions, Dan.
For the season. Big picture.
Big picture. So if you go back and listen to the conference previews, we obviously gave some voice to who we think is winning each of these conferences, but we did not do a playoff prediction. We need to do that. We'll talk about our brackets. I think if it's cool with you, we should bundle in some fantasy things as well.
100%. Like, it could be kind of a long show, and so we'll do spillover fantasy things for the fine people at verballers.com. That's VERBALLERS.com to support the show directly if you enjoy what we do. So yeah, fantasy things and official predictions next week.
And we got a smattering of suggestions of predictions from the Verballerhood that you're going to be able to hear. This will drop on Sunday. So a lot to come. We're excited about it. The season, as I like to say, is getting awfully big in the window. Keep it right here. Hit follow or subscribe so that you don't miss any of those episodes.
Correct.
For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildebrand, thank you as always for stopping on by. Hope to see you again soon. We'll talk to you on Sunday. Stay solid.
Peace.